I'll And while I'm responding to questions from the chat, please be all ears. I don't want you to listen to answers which are only to your questions, because that way you miss out on a lot of good intel that you can get from others' questions. All right. So I'm starting with the questions that I see in the chat. Meanwhile, you can put in yours as well. How many rounds are there in one match? Qualifiers have 3 rounds. Everybody will play all the rounds in the qualifiers. Out of these 3 rounds, the first 2 rounds are prepared rounds, the motion for which has been given. It was released yesterday evening. The motion clarification has also been done for every category through audio notes. Again, if you scroll through the chat on WhatsApp, you will find it. I see a lot of people complaining about the number of messages that are flooding the chat. I understand that's a legitimate concern, but what you can do is literally use the chat search option on WhatsApp. So there is a chat search option. If you click on chat search and if you type motion clarification for seniors, you will be shown that exact message which has the audio note for the motion clarification. So finding the relevant material that is only relevant to you through keywords is possible on group chat on WhatsApp. Please try using that feature. It will help you a lot. All right. The third round is an impromptu round. The motion for that will be released only 1 hour prior to the debate. All that you need for the prepared rounds is already out. The only thing that is not out yet are the sides. They will be given then and there on the spot. You anyway have to debate from both the sides. So it's better if you prepare from both the sides and be prepared mentally to go from whichever side in the first round and whichever side in the second round. All right. Junior students, fine. What's the motion for the first round for seniors? If you go back to the deck that Devika ma'am shared today on the group chat, it has motions and the context slides for every category. Please, in fact, any question that you're asking on the WhatsApp group has the answer in the Frankenstein deck that Devika ma'am shared. So if you look at it and if you read through it, you will find the answer to your questions. You won't even have to ask any. So please browse through it. It has motions, context, schedule for the qualifiers day, and the training schedule, what gets covered in training, what will get covered when, WSDC format, everything is there in the deck. You just have to browse through it to get answers to your questions. By the way, the seniors, like to explicitly answer your question, for senior category first round, the motion is this house believes that government should ban the sale of naturally occurring commodities. You will find it in the deck as well. This house believes that government should ban the sale of, okay, somebody has responded to it. Thank you very much. When is the mock debate and qualifiers, and do they have the same motion? Qualifiers, I just explained, 3 rounds, 2 prepared rounds. The prepared rounds will be on the same motion that was released yesterday from both the sides. Third round is impromptu. The motion for that will be released on the day of the tournament. Clarified? As far as mock debates are concerned, we have around 100, 120 participants in this room and the same number in the other room, which means that getting everybody to debate beforehand is impossible. We are still going to practice and give you a foretaste of what is coming tomorrow. Tomorrow's day is only for practice, but practice does not mean that you will be given a chance to deliver a speech. We can't listen to 100 speeches in 1 hour. So how we are going to practice is that we're going to pick a motion, and then everybody is going to put their inputs in the chat, and I'm going to read it out. I'm going to comment on it, and then those comments can be used by you as feedback to work upon like your work and like make it better. That's what the case prep or the mock is going to look like. Please do not be mistaken about it. Tomorrow we will be starting with the practice that we need. All right. When will we know whether we are proposition or opposition? On the day of the tournament.
Miss, where is the junior room?
We'll redirect you. Somebody, Devika, could you please put Rayanj in the room? Can you please tell the motion, which category, no specific? Please be very specific with your questions. Is the motion for seniors supposed to be debated as a principle or a policy? Again, there is a clarificatory note on the WhatsApp group an audio altogether which explains that this motion is a principal debate. You are debating on the principal legitimacy of the motion. Please go back to that audio note. You listen to that. All your questions will be clarified. The semis and finals will be offline, right? Yes, that's right. All right. In all the 3 rounds, will we debate with the same team? Same team, yes. The team remains the same till the end now. For the senior category motion, the motion says naturally occurring commodities like water. So it's just about water or the commodities. Definitely, naturally occurring is your key term. Water is just an example. So naturally occurring can be oxygen. It could be anything else that you know is naturally occurring. It doesn't have to be restricted to water. It's your the balls in your court. Make it what you want. It has to be naturally occurring. That's the trick. Like that's the catch. Please tell the motion. I don't know. Very unclear. But the motion itself is in the deck. I'm repeating it over and over again. Is the debate on 7th or 8th? It's on 7th. Do we need to prepare both for and against the motion? Yes. You will be debating from both the sides. It's just that in round one, some may be opposition, the others might be proposition. But whatever side you are on in the first round is going to be the exact opposite in the second round. So eventually you have to debate from both the sides. So you have to prepare from both the sides. Please be prepared for that. Okay. How much time do we have for the debate? There are 6 speeches in each, like in every round. And each speech is for 3 minutes if you're in the junior category, 4 minutes if you're in the middle category, and 6 minutes if you're in the senior category. So 4 into 6 is 6 4s are 24. This means that 24 minutes of debate in the mid for the middle category, and for the senior category, you have 6 speeches, 6 minutes, 36 minutes, not more than 40-45 minutes of a round. So just think of it as like an hour-long round. That's the best way to approach it. That was my question, and I wanted to clarify the dates. The one regarding the mock debate, it has been answered, all right. While doing a debate, if questions are asked from the other team, do we have to answer or if should we ignore? This is something that I'm going to explain in the POI part of things. If it overspills into Monday, when will it happen on Monday? There's no such, we will notify you if there are any changes. There are no changes. The qualifiers will happen on 7th. No Monday business here, only Sunday. We can choose the speaker, please, or will we be allotted? Yeah, I told you guys this yesterday as well. You're free to choose your speaker roles. It's not an issue. You just have to have settlement within the team. Don't fight amongst yourselves for speaker roles. We can choose the, okay, this is done. Ma'am, when are the semifinals? Semifinals are later. It's on the 13th. You don't have to care about that right now. The main focus should be getting through qualifiers. Once you're done with that, we will tell you how IIT Delhi is going to work, who has to come, who doesn't have to come. Everything will be just clarified. First, deal with the qualifiers. The same debate is in IIT Delhi. It's just that people who qualify through the qualifier rounds are going to come to IIT Delhi, not everybody. That's the only difference. Okay, finals. When is it? 7th. Okay. How many speeches are there for middle category? Every category has 6 speeches. Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Leader of Opposition, Government Whip, Opposition Whip, end of story.
Hello.
No, please put it in the chat. I'm not taking anything. See, yeah, everything has to be put in the chat. If you
What are these like I haven't done debates as such. I do MUNs. Like what is this proposition opposition thing?
You have to put it in the chat. I'll come to your question. If you haven't been
उसको जो oppose कर रहा है basically.
If you haven't
Please
हाँ,
mute
मतलब वही.
yourself.
Yeah, I know that, but like
okay, thank you.
Yeah, Nitisha, ma'am, please continue.
How much time is there for middle category? Guys, I've responded to these questions. 4 minutes each speech, 6 speeches in total. How much time we are getting for motion preparation? For prepared motions, you have today, tomorrow. The motion was released last night, so you have had substantial time, at least 2 days. For impromptu, you will get 1 hour. Qualifiers are on 7th. Yes. Will there be a break in between the debates? yes, you will have substantial 5-10 minutes of break for sure. But sometimes there is like an overspill, so be prepared for like intense rounds. That's the thrill of it. So it's just one day. You said yesterday that you will clarify whether it's on 7th and also on 8th. So are both dates there? Right now it's only 7th of May. Please prepare yourself for 7th of May. There's no change of plans. The qualifiers will happen on Sunday and be concluded then. Will all of us have to log from 4:30 to 8:30? Yes, please. Will our date be with the same teams in both the rounds? No, you will be paired with different teams in different rounds. So that's going to be our responsibility. You just have to show up in the rooms that you are allotted. When will we get to know if we made it to quarterfinals after the qualifiers? Uh, do we have to go for or against in the impromptu round? Both. I mean, you can go either for or against. We will tell you which side you will be given. So we will give you the motion and we will give you a side. And according to that, you will be preparing. How many teams from each category? 4 precisely. Semis. We break into semis. Semi-finals. If the semi-finals is on 13, then when is the finals? Same day. Semi-finals and finals same day. First we have to reach till semi-finals, then finals. So it is a long time. Yeah, okay, fair. How many teams from each category will be selected? Responded. When will you tell about qualifiers? I've been speaking about qualifiers. Please be more particular with the question that you're asking. Will we get to know whether we are opposition or proposition in the qualifiers third round? Yes. Yes, you will. Do all members of team have to sit together? No, you can be at your own place because there are people from different cities altogether teaming up. You just have to coordinate online. You can coordinate online through WhatsApp chat or whatever, but you don't have to be physically together. Okay, how many teams for each category? Again, same question. When are 3 rounds? Okay. Will the impromptu topic be from the 6 topics mentioned in the presentation? Yes. Any debate that you will have in this particular tournament will be based on those 5 monsters. Those are the themes. So yes. How many students will be selected for the ISDS camp? Not relevant right now. Also, this is iPhone. Please rename yourself and put your actual name and grade as your username. How many teams will qualify? 4 from each category. Ma'am, when will we get to know about qualifiers?
I think now the kind of question is repeating. So we
Yeah, the
can put
questions are repeating. Yeah.
next level of question at the end and start with the session because we will then otherwise float over the time.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I've taken most of the questions. Please do not repeat your questions. I'll open like 5 minutes of window again if I can today in today's session after I have explained things. All right, moving on. So today the primary task is to explain speaker roles. As in, if you are 3 people in a team, how do you coordinate? If you're going first speaker, what are you supposed to do? If you're going second, how does the role change? And if you're going third, what is it that you cover? So if you're first speaker, look at these slides while listening to me. The first thing that you need to do is set context. This means that you need to define the topic. Like if you're having a debate on industrialization, industrialization is a very broad term. So you have to break it down. What about industrialization? Are we talking about environmental sustainability? Are we talking about the solution to environmental problems? Or are we talking about the kind of environmental problems that plague us? So industrialization is like a lot of things. So setting the context is basically about breaking it down to what this debate is actually about. It cannot be vaguely generally about industrialization. So when we're talking about, for example, naturally occurring commodities, it's very, very specific part of corporates or like capitalism. So you have to say that we are talking about this problem. The problem is naturally occurring commodities and it's more like commercialization. So you have to mention what the context is. Where is this debate happening? What does the world in which this debate is happening look like? Who are the people impacted in this debate by what we're saying? All of those things, right? So your stakeholders, who is relevant to this debate? Where is this debate happening? What do the various terms in the debate mean, in the motion mean? What are naturally occurring commodities? You can't just presume that everybody knows what naturally occurring commodities are. You also need to give me an explanation of what naturally occurring commodities mean to you as a debater. All of that responsibility falls within the ambit of the first speaker responsibility. All right. In the second point, it says that you have to specify your position. Specifying the position means I have given you a context. that this is a debate about naturally occurring commodities. That's not enough. Which side of the debate are you on? If you're supporting naturally occurring commodities, if you're banning naturally occurring commodities, what are you saying? Why are you saying it? How will a ban solve things? Those are questions that the first speaker needs to answer. Just basic framing. What am I saying? Where do I come from? What are the basic points? You just have to enlist them. Your second speaker can analyze them better. But the first speaker has to, after setting up, also explain the argument that the adjudicators can expect from the second speaker and the third speaker. All right. Structure of argumentation has to apply. Structure of argument is also very simple. There is a claim that you make. So the claim is that, claim could be anything. We want to ban naturally occurring commodities. So I'm not going to give you a claim for this motion because it just gives away a lot of arguments. That's not what we are here to do. Let's take another motion. This house opposes the glorification of this house opposes the glorification of true crime genre or true crime web series. Let's say that. Or this house regrets the rise of true crime genre. Let's do it. Mute yourself, guys. Mute yourself. Shika, mute yourself. So this, just let me put it here. This house regrets. So if you're first speaker in this motion, then as the first speaker, you're supposed to tell me what is true crime genre and why do you regret it? How will regretting it solve things? Why? What is the harm on the other side where true crime is supported?
You
Or
also
true
just
crime
said the first
series.
speaker has to tell in the middle category.
In the chat, please. In the chat, I'll respond to that. I'll come back to that question, but put it in the chat. So, what is the harm on the other side where true crime series is supported? Always think of your speech as a series of answers to a series of questions. First, ask yourself the right questions. What am I saying? Why am I saying this? How is this relevant to the debate? Why should this argument win me the debate? All right, that's basically what the first speaker is supposed to do. Once you answered all of those questions, then you're supposed to enlist the arguments. So panel, we have argument 1. So like whatever the argument is, XYZ. Argument 2, again, whatever it is, ABC, and like that. And then towards the end, you can say that my deputy will elaborate on these things further, right? If you're left with something. Try to cover everything, like at least this much, because deputy will also have a lot of work to do. But if you can't, you can just say that my second speaker will carry this forward. All right. These are the things that you should do. But what are the things that you should not do as the first speaker? First of all, you can't unreasonably define things. You can't say that, oh, the world today, that commodities are not overpriced. You can't say that because commodities are actually overpriced. So you can't make false claims, of course. You can't say that patriarchy does not exist, even if it does. You can't say that people do not like playing sports or do not like watching cricket in India, because they do. So sure, you would get to define things, but you don't get to skew them. You don't get to tweak them so much that you actually fabricate the reality or you falsify the reality. That's not something that you can do, because the other side will call you out for that. And you can also not just give an argument and not explain it. So whenever I give an argument, I'm also supposed to explain, why am I saying this? What am I like? How is this relevant to the debate? I'll give you a quick example because this is important for all speakers, not just the first speaker. So if the argument is that true crime series, lead to fear mongering. So I am saying that if people watch a lot of true crime series, they become afraid of their own surroundings. They don't step out. They become impaired almost because they can't go to their work, so on and so forth. I can't just leave this argument here. I can't just make a statement and expect the adjudicator to listen to me. I need to explain this further. This is only the heading of the argument. or you're only flag posting this argument when you say this. The analysis comes after the heading. What are you saying? Crime series are sensational and they try to create a hype. So it makes people more afraid. Also, because it's an entire series, you watch it on repeat. When you watch things on repeat, they are internalized. I think more about it because so even when I'm not watching an episode, I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. In this looking forward, I'm constantly thinking about things like crime, which I don't otherwise. So there is like an over occupation with like or preoccupation with these things, which is why you're constantly thinking about it. When you're constantly thinking about it, it's fed to your unconscious sensibilities, and as a result of that, it just strengthens in power and it has a hold over you, which is bad. So this is how you analyze an argument. How does true crime lead to fear? How does fear cripple the person? Why is the fear crippling? I mean, why is fear so bad? Because opposition can also say that, look, fear is actually a good thing because it makes you more aware of your surroundings. And if you're aware of your surroundings, you're able to operate and function better in a society which is constantly coming to get you, which is constantly trying to pull you down. So fear can also be thought of as like a good thing. But if you want it to be perceived as something bad, then you need to give me strategic reason it should be perceived as bad. It comes through the analysis of an argument. Please do not leave your arguments half baked. Just mention something and not explaining them is the last thing you want to be doing. Fair enough. This was about the structure of an argument. We're pretty much done with it. Moving on to the second speech, like speaker's responsibilities. So basically, opposition speaker one do's and don'ts are very similar. It's almost the same. Prime Minister and leader of opposition are the first speaker from each side. So if you look at Prime Minister, they are on prop. And if you look at the LO, they are on side opposition. These roles remain mostly the same. The only thing that the LO differs in or like does more than the only additional feature in an LO speech is the rebuttal part, because PM does not have any speaker going before them. This means that they don't have to rebut anybody. But you are the LO. You've already heard your prime minister, which means you need to rebut them. So the LO will do the framing, setting up, will do the arguments exactly like how I explained, but they will also rebut the PM. That's the only difference. Okay. So quickly going through the points, establish major clashes. So major clashes as in what are the main arguments that you are going to run, and state principles as in what are the arguments from your side and why they should be cared for, because so it's all the same analysis, same argument. The first speeches from both the sides are to a very large extent the same. The only thing that differs is the rebuttal bit of the part where you rebut your PM. We'll be sharing these slides so you can go through them in detail also later. So now coming on to the second speeches, which are your deputy speeches. Now deputy speeches again, you have one deputy speech on each side. This is DPM, which is the deputy speech from the government side, and there's DLO, who delivers the deputy speech from the opposition side. So when deputy is speakers have, like when it's time for them to deliver a speech, a couple of things have already happened in the room. Two speeches have happened, one from each side. So both the deputies know what their case is from their first speaker, and they also know what the other side's case is from the other side's first speaker. Because the first speakers have already delivered their speeches by the time it's my turn to speak as a deputy. What I am supposed to do is two things. One, the first thing that you need to do is rebuilding of arguments. And the second thing that you're doing is rebuttals, or basically active rebuttals. Because rebutting is something that everybody can do and everybody should do. But the deputy's role is to actively rebut. So others can also rebut, but deputy has to, like there's no option with them. So rebut, and deputies can also bring new arguments in the debate if you have to. It's not a compulsion, but if you have to, you can. So rebuilding of arguments is a simple concept. You rebuild an argument because your first speaker gave some arguments and they were put under attack by the other side. The other side's first speaker tried to attack your first speaker. Now you need to say that whatever their first speaker has said is actually false or not true or is less consequential, and our arguments still stand. That's rebuilding. Think of it as something like, think of it as like a team sport. And for example, yeah, it's a team sport and you're supposed to win, but one person has been injured. You try to double down on your effort so that you can make up for the person who's been injured and is now not playing on the team. So the deputy's role is to do exactly that. Emphasize the more important things that were left by the first speaker. Talk, rebuild the case, justify your first speaker more so that the first speaker's arguments, the other side's arguments do not stand or are not so well like validated by the adjudicators. That's rebuilding. Rebuttal is separate. Rebuttal is actively looking at what is their case and how I can take that down. So the argument that they're making, and say that this argument is wrong for A, B, C, 3 reasons, 4 reasons, however many reasons you can find. One quick caveat: please don't attack the speaker, attack their arguments. I see a lot of debaters do this. In rhetorics, they end up saying, oh, we expected better speakers to confront us. And oh, we didn't think somebody would come up with such lame arguments. Please don't make those rude comments. That's not debating at all. That's just like being mean, against which there will be action. That's equity committee here in the tournament. We want to be like kind and respectful, and we want to win on the merit of our arguments, not like by intimidation tactics towards the other side. Everybody will pay for it if they choose to uptake a behavior of that kind. So always attack the argument, not the person. Aggressive speeches which are constantly engaging in rhetoric, which can be hurtful, are not marked well. They're in fact down marked. So please be kind, respectful, subtle, and just be very strong with your argument so that you can win by the might of your arguments and not necessarily have to resort to rhetorics of any kind. All right. So this is basically what the deputy speech is supposed to be: rebuilding, rebuttals, and then making new arguments. You don't have to give new arguments, but if you have time left, and if you think that a new argument can really add value to my case, or that you have had a eureka moment where you think, oh, this is a perfect argument, we missed out on it, I don't quite know how, but if I can deliver it, it will really get us to win, then please include that argument in your speech. If you don't want to do new arguments, if you only want to carry forward the arguments that your first speaker already made, you're more than welcome to do that. Do just that as well. All right. That's pretty much it when it comes to deputy speeches. All right. Moving on. Okay, just one more thing about deputy speeches, guys. Sometimes the deputy speaker just has a lot of things to cover, and you get confused about what to rebut, what to explain. I mean, maybe you have 3 arguments to analyze, and the analysis is very big, so it's taking time, but you also have 5 arguments to rebut. How will you prioritize this? It's very simple. Whichever argument you think is the most important in the debate, whichever argument you think the other side has spent the most of the time on, are the arguments that you should prioritize and break down first. Because these are the arguments that the other side thinks of as more important. You don't have to talk about arguments which the other side does not find so important, because these are not going to become clashes. These are not obvious arguments that both sides are talking about. So always think about priority. Always think about which is the strongest argument and which will get me to win this debate. Because even if you miss out on the less important arguments because you didn't have time, it hurts less. But if you miss out on the most important argument because you kept it at the last, then it's like irreversible damage. So please try to prioritize your arguments like that when you're going deputy. That's pretty much it. Again, opposition speaker, deputy leader of opposition, almost the same as the deputy prime minister. Rebuild, rebut, new arguments, just the same. Nothing changes. It's just that you are on a different side. You also have to prioritize the right kind of arguments. You also need to rebuild your case. You also need to rebut the DPM and the PM. But everything remains the same. There's really no change whatsoever in any of the deputy speeches on both sides. It's the same. Coming on to the last speeches, the whip speeches. These are called, okay, so like I said yesterday as well, and I'm reiterating for whoever might have missed this, whip speeches start with a W, and the main responsibility also starts with a W. It's called weighing. Weighing just means that you're comparing the two sides. All right. This is also called biased adjudication. or judgment, right? So bias adjudication means that I'm looking at both the sides. So you will say panel side proposition gave these arguments, side opposition gives this argument. We think when this argument clashes with this argument, ours is better for ABC reasons. Do you get that? So like in a motion, let's say the same motion, this house regrets the rise of true crime genre. If the government side says that we regret true crime genre because it makes people fearful, and if the opposition says that no, we support true crime genre because it makes people more aware, then the clash is between fear and awareness. You will say, if I am government whip, let's presume I am supporting the regret metrics. I will say, panel, on our side, we are fearful. We are saying that people have become more afraid. On their side, they're saying people become more aware. This debate is about where are we making people better equipped to deal with their surroundings. We don't think fear can ever get people to work efficiently because fear cripples people. Even when I know I'm good at things, even if I'm good at combat, even if I can really take down an enemy, if I'm constantly afraid of that enemy in my head, I will not be able to use my power. Even if I have learned like all kinds of martial arts and I know like various ways of how to just take down an enemy in the worst way possible, but if I'm afraid, I'm unlikely to like be able to act as efficiently as I would when I'm not overly like overtly afraid of things. So I am now saying that they talk about awareness, sure, and we buy the point that maybe true crime genre does create awareness. But what use would that awareness serve if I am crippled by fear? I am aware, but because I'm so fearful because of the awareness, I will not be able to act promptly. This means that fear is a bigger harm than the benefit of awareness, which is why we think we should take this argument. That's how whip speeches compare the two sides and find how they can win on their side. And what I mean, it's almost like telling the adjudicators why you think you're winning the debate. As simple as that. That's what whip speeches are for. But remember that in this tournament, there are no reply speeches. So an additional burden on the whip speech is also to summarize the case on your side. And summaries don't always have to be like enumerating every point. Summaries are about finding and enlisting the most important points which you want the adjudicator to remember. Okay? Please go through this. I am done with speaker roles. I am opening the floor for exactly the next 4 minutes for questions. Quickly put your questions in the chat. Hi, Devika, are you here?
Yes, Diksha.
I'm just finding it hard to just scroll through every question. Would it be possible for you to read out the questions that I can answer?
Sure. So I can go from bottom to up. So,
Yes, thank
ma'am,
you so much.
does the third speaker rebut?
Yes, the third speaker is allowed to rebut but not give new arguments.
Surya Pratap, 11th grade. Will the rules be fixed forever, or can they be dynamic for each round?
They can literally change in every round. It just depends on your team compatibility. You have to have agreement within the team.
Any other detail? So, question related to the 13th, we will take it later. Ma'am, I'm still confused in whip speech.
Okay, whip speeches, simply putting it, 3 responsibilities. One, rebutting the speeches, rebutting whatever needs to be rebutted still. Second, comparing the two sides and explaining to the adjudicator why your side still wins. So you're almost comparing, that's called weighing, and finding out the reasons for why you take it over them and telling that to the adjudicator. And lastly, summarize. What are the points that you want the adjudicator to remember? Just enlist them towards the end so that the adjudicator remembers and puts them on their sheet to evaluate. That's it.
Uh, Nitya Agarwal, 12th grade. Are we supposed to answer the rebuts in our time limit itself?
Yes. You are not ever given any additional time beyond 4 minutes, 20 seconds, 6 minutes, 20 seconds, depending on your category. Everything, taking a POI, the rebuttals happens within that time frame. Everything.
Okay, Mahi Priya Chaudhary, ninth grade. Can PM rebut if they think there's a promising argument in future? I think they
Oh
meant
yeah,
PM.
that's called preemption. You can just if you think that this argument is definitely coming from opposition, you can rebut it. But I will advise that you don't spend a lot of time doing that, because sometimes our guess can also be wrong. Opposition might not be thinking the way you are.
Okay, like it's a question not related to the current, but still I get relevant. Will we learn about what a model and a principle is?
Okay, so we are not doing a model right now because senior category has a bands motion, but we do not have a any policy motions for qualifiers. So no, we are not discussing a model right now.
Uh, okay, I guess you're moving very fast. Uh, Ma'am, uh, this is Anushka. When the first proposition speaker will start with its content briefing, so they do have to give the briefing with questions.
You don't have to necessarily ask you, I mean, say them out loud. It's only for your reference, but sometimes speakers do that. They say, panel, why are we saying this? We'll give you the answer. So that creates better impact. So if you want to first posit the question and then respond to it, it also gives you a structure. It's absolutely your call.
Um, Abhimanyu Agarwal, ma'am, if DLO says something for which whip need to present new argument, then what will he do?
So DLO will not say something for which you need a new argument. You can always find rebuttals from your existing arguments. But yeah, so you can actively rebut and you can extend on the existing argument. So see, even if you want to think, even if you think that you need a slightly new perspective, then try to extend the existing argument and give it a new perspective, but show that connectivity. Don't say something completely new and like absolutely newfangled.
Yes, ma'am, if first speaker said something and the first speaker of opposition give a counter argument, can the first speaker say it again? Gaurika Gupta.
Yeah, there's no watertight rules. Anybody can rebut anybody as long as they are the opposing team.
Ma'am, please explain speaker three do's and don'ts.
Speaker 3 I just did. I think you must have listened to that. So summarize everything, whichever point you think is important, the adjudicator should remember and not forget. Do that. You have to defend your team by rebutting, also by comparing and showing why your side wins over the other side. You don't have to only talk about your case in a whip speech. You have to always also talk about the other side, but in such a way that their side seems less uh like reasonable than yours.
This is a good question. Uh, will we get time? Will we get time to attack? What does it mean?
Okay, time to, I think I understand. No, there is no separate time for you to attack. First of all, attack is a very aggressive term. Attack is in attacking the arguments. You will definitely have the time to respond to what the other side is saying, but that's only your speech. Realize that you don't have anything beyond the speeches that you are given. So whatever you want to do, it has to happen within the speech. There's no crossfire, there's no cross questioning, nothing of that kind.
uh, Naina Sachdev, 8th grade. Some tips for setting the, some tips. Can you give some tips to prepare for the debate? No, that's not a question. Let me just read out the next question I've heard. Some tips for preparing context.
Okay. Preparing context. First of all, read about the themes. Context is just basically, so if we are debating on industrialization, read as much as you can about it. That will give you the context. So industrialization means setting up of industries, means fast-paced world, means like means hustle culture, stuff like that. So that is your context. Your context comes from your reading, how much you know about the world. That's your context. So reading is the solution.
Uh, I guess this is a Garansh Khatri. Can we sit together if we want to?
Oh
I think
yes, for
yes.
sure.
Uh, Siddhant T grade 8, are we allowed to include a model in our talk?
Are we allowed to do what?
A model in their speech.
See, model is only used in THW debates. If you introduce a model in any other debate, it might be superfluous or unrequired. So it doesn't serve a purpose unless it's a THW debate. So if it's a value judgment debate and then you're like bringing a model, then you will be wasting very precious minutes of your time. I recommend that you don't do that.
Can you once again explain the POI?
Shivansh in the chat. Other questions?
Sure. So, ma'am, can you tell what are POIs?
POIs we are going to cover just now. So
Siddhant, you're asking the same question on the model. Then, ma'am, can we ask question between our speech to the opposition?
between your speech, yeah. So again, POI, related to POI, I will explain this.
Ma'am, can we ask? Yeah, I get this covers very much the question that we have.
Okay.
Now the questions are more around POI in the question, so you can go ahead and take the session.
All right, guys. So let's look at POIs then. So please listen carefully. I think a lot of you have questions on POIs. So what are POIs? POI is short for points of interjection. Interjection is a question. It's a question that you offer to your, like, of course, opponents. You can't be asking questions to your own teammates. That's very obvious. The second point reads, the question should be short and simple. This is extremely crucial. How do POIs work? Listen to this. I am giving a speech. Let's say I'm the PM. I have 6 minutes if I'm in the senior category. I will say, hello, I'm Nitiksha. I will be taking my POIs only after the 3rd minute or only after the 4th minute. So the opposition should realize that they can't disturb the speaker before their 4 minutes are over. Once the 4 minute is over, then you can put the POI in chat. How do you put it in chat? You don't write an entire question in the chat. You just simply say POI in the chat. Like, so see, I'm doing it for everyone in the chat. So if I want to ask somebody a question, I'll just write this POI. And then if I am the speaker and let's say, who's on my screen? Let's say Aryaman was asking me a POI and I am giving my speech. I can stop and I can say, okay, now I will entertain the POI. That's how POIs work. After I have responded to a POI, I don't have to ask the interjector, does that clear your question? Was it helpful? You don't have to ask all of those questions. You don't have to care about the interjector and if they're satisfied with your question. You just move on. Once you've responded, you say, okay, now that the POI is out of the way, continuing with what I was saying, yada, yada, yada. This means that you at no point in time can cross question or interact with the interjector. The interjector asks a short question, you respond to it, end of story. All right. That's how POIs work. POIs do not happen before or after the speech. POIs happen strictly within a time frame. This time frame is slightly something that you have to be mindful of. So there will be a timer running on your screen in every room. The chair will be doing it, the adjudicator. So the first minute and the last minute of your speech. So the first minute for the senior category and the 5th minute. This is protected time. This is called protected time. In this time, you can't take a POI. So 0 seconds to 1 minute is protected time. You can't take a POI. And 5 minutes to the 6th minute, you can't take a POI. In between, you can take a POI. So all of this time is for a POI. If the other side doesn't actively ask you a question, you can say, I will take any POIs if they're in now. So if you're done with your arguments. If you don't want to take POIs, that's your call as well. You don't have to. Likewise, if you talk about the middle category, so the first minute, again, and the last minute, which is the 3rd minute, this is protected time. You can't take a POI in your protected time. You will only take a POI between the 1st and the 3rd minute. 0 seconds to 1 minute, protected. 3 to 4 minute, protected. No POI is entertained. One should also not ask a POI in the first and the last minute of a person's speech. This is for introduction. This is for conclusion. This is not for responding to questions. All right. Now, some obvious questions on POIs will be responded to by these pointers on the screen. The second point reads, the question should be short and simple. This means that your question has to be written on a notepad or a Google Doc, whatever you use, beforehand. You can't be framing your question after somebody has told you to ask a POI. That just wastes a lot of their time. Now imagine yourself. You have a speech of 4 minutes, and the person asking the question has taken 1 minute of your time. That's unfair because a lot of their time has been used by you. 15 seconds to ask any POI. If you are unable to ask in those 15 seconds, the speaker has the right to say that, look, my opponent was not able to give me a precise POI. I'm going to move on. I will not let them waste my time. The adjudicator will also mute you if you are not able to finish your POI within 15 seconds. So please write it down beforehand and just read it out the moment you're recognized. All right. POI can be offered as per the preference of the speaker. This means that if I am going as like a certain speaker, let's say I'm Deputy Prime Minister, I will say, hello, I'm Nitiksha. I will take my POI after the 3rd minute, 4th minute, whenever convenient, and I will take them through chat. This means that you cannot unmute yourself as my opposition and ask me a POI. You have to put it in the chat and ask for my approval. But if I say I will take the POI verbally, this means that you can unmute and ask a POI. You can say, so like I am giving my speech. Somebody can just say hello POI, and the speaker can say no, declined, or yes, accepted. All right. POIs can only be asked if the speaker accepts the POI. This is the concept of choice. POIs are not compulsory. For example, delivering 3 speeches from each side is compulsory. So POI is an optional thing. I might or might not want to take a POI or ask a POI. I am not downmarked for not taking a POI. But taking a POI might just increase my chances of winning, which is why it's advisable that you take a POI. But if you don't, you're not downmarked for it. All right. I think, and the last point says that you can deny and reject the POI, which is just a simplification of the second last point. Any questions on POIs now? Give me just 20 seconds.
Ma'am, I still didn't understood.
Okay, if you have any question related to the POIs, you can now put in a chat. Ma'am will take shortly.
I still didn't understood.
Shivansh, put your question in the chat. How to deny a POI? Are there marks for POI?
Yes, questions?
Okay, so I'm going to read them loud. So, A, are there marks for POI?
No, there are no marks for POIs.
How to deny a POI?
So when somebody says POI in the chat, just say declined and move on. Hello.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm finding out the other good question. Can everyone ask POI?
Yes, anybody can. So yeah, so the PM can ask the opposition, whip a POI. So any speaker from one side can ask any speaker a POI from the other side. No limit to that.
Okay. Arna Kumar, 7th grade. Can the POI be asked after the person has finished the speech?
No.
Is speaker 1 only going to ask or answer POI? I guess it's already answered that anyone can ask POI to their opponents. Do we say decline during the speech or after?
During the speech. So if a POI comes away, you say, I'm not going to take it, declined, or no, thank you, whatever, however you want to decline. You can just mention that I will not be taking POIs and just continue.
Does declining POI decrease points?
No, it doesn't.
Are POIs appointed? Anushka, I'm not clear. What do you mean by appointed? Shivansh, could you explain what you didn't understand within POI? There's no point of spamming multiple times the same comment. Please clarify what you don't understand about POI.
Sir,
You want to write in the chat? Can a POI of one person's speech ask another person?
Yeah. Yes.
The 2 prepared rounds are going to happen back to back or with a break. They're going to be back to back. So 4:30 to 5:30 going to be first match, and then 5:30 to 6:30 going to be another match. But because you will have time, you will finish between 36 to 45 minutes, so you will have 10 minutes break. Do we get to the state the preference of receiving a POI and we grade 8?
Yes, you can mention your preference before you start with your speech for convenience.
If a POI is asked to PM and he denies it, can DPM answer it?
If they have denied it, then you can ask a completely new POI to DPM. So yes, DPM can take a POI if the PM does not. That's okay.
Safe time. What is safe time?
Safe time is protected time. First minute and the last minute is the time which is called protected or safe. This means that nobody can ask you a POI in that time.
Hope I think it's clear to Shivansh. In the introduction, we can in the introduction, can we decline POI?
Yeah, you can say that I will not be taking POIs. My deputy will take a POI, so please don't ask me any.
Tamanna Gulati, can the same person ask more than one POI to a speaker?
You can, but it's not fair. So most of the speakers only have time for one POI. Please don't ask more than one. If they have responded to one POI, just stay mute. Don't disturb them any further.
If we answer a POI, will it give us bonus points or increase our chance of winning?
It
Ishita
definitely
Verma.
can increase your chance of winning if you're asking a very good POI, but it does not lead to automatic down marking. So like if the POI is smart and if it is intelligent, only then you will like it increases your chance of winning. If you're asking a POI just for the sake of it, then it does not.
Utkarsh, your question has already been answered. Ma'am, if a speaker asks the PM a POI, then if it means declined, then can ask the
Yeah,
same
they can.
POI to the DPM. Okay, it's a bit different. Ma'am, if a speaker asks the PM a POI, then if it's declined, then can we ask same POI to DPM?
Yes. See, if your POI is declined, this means that you have not had the chance to articulate your POI. So only when I accept a POI will your question come about, right? Right now, so if I decline it, this means that your question is still with you. Nobody knows the question yet. So yes, you can ask the same question to the DPM because nobody knows what your question was going to be.
uh, could we do like a simulation? I think that will clarify a lot. So, for example, if Nitiksha ma'am is delivering the speech, she will clarify in the session like how she will take a POI. So, as opponent, I can write in the chat. That's a one way, or I can just ask ma'am.
Actually, we can just do a simulation. For example, I'm delivering my speech. So I will just read this out to consider it my speech or what is on the screen. Then, Kamal sir, I think you can be the opponent who tries to ask a POI and then I'll respond and I'll tell
Yeah.
them how it is.
So now
So
ma'am will clarify in the initial, or either ma'am clarify that she will take a verbal POI or in the chat. So that's the first thing that you note what you are comfortable. Go, ma'am.
all right. So I will, for example, if I'm delivering a speech, let's say on this house regrets the rise of true crime genre, I'd be talking about the idea of fear and how fear essentially engenders a certain type of like crippled attitude because of which you can't step out of your house, so on and so forth. In all of these situations, people are not able to use their awareness like effectively, which is why we need to ensure that people are not fearful if we want them to like do anything meaningful. If at this point I am now like delivering my speech and let's say so there's a lot of questions coming in the chat, so the POI might have been missed. Kamal sir, have you put it in the chat? You can just put it in the chat now. Yeah. So look at this. So now I was delivering my speech. And in the middle of the speech, I see this pop-up of a POI from Indian Debating League account, but at that time it will be your opponents. So I will now in the middle of my speech say no, declined. And then panel moving on to my second point, so on and so forth. This means that I just have to use one word, say decline, and move on. This means that whoever was wanting to ask me a POI did not get the chance to ask it. Do you get it? So your POI is still safe with you. which means you can, yes, you can ask the same POI to the DPM because nobody knows what your POI to the PM was going to be. The PM declined it even before you had the chance to ask for it. I hope this makes it clear. This is like a perfect simulation of what will happen. Also, guys, just one thing that's really annoying me, asking the same question in one breath 5 times on the chat is not going to lead to any like more prompt answering. So we are responding to every question. Please don't put it like 5 times at once. Like other Vashne, don't do that, please. Yes, other questions?
Okay. Also, we can take like a one actual PI. So this was a rejection. One we can take like, so.
Okay, yeah. So I'm talking. So please put it in the chat sooner this time. I'm starting with my speech. So yeah, fear cripples people because of which they are unable to step out of their house. So even if they are aware, this awareness cannot be put to use because fear essentially leads them, cloisters them in their place. The impact of this is that minorities suffer more because they're likely to be more afraid. Yes, I'll take that feedback.
Don't you think that the even majority are fearful about a lot of things? So it's not just about minority. It's fear is for everyone.
Right, sure. We think minorities are still fearful. Everybody is fearful at the end if you would like give them a stimuli which actually generates fear. But we think minorities are more fearful because they don't trust the state. They don't trust the police because they are also majority and more often than not in the society that we live in. Continuing with my speech, coming back to the point of awareness, we think so on and so forth. This is how you respond to a POI. You respond to it. I don't ask Kamal sir if he is happy with my answer or if he's satisfied. You don't ask those things. The adjudicator will decide if the question answer was rightly answered. I'm sorry, the question was rightly responded to. So just move on. Respond to the POI, move on. Decline the POI, move on. That's how it goes. Is this clear? Give me a thumbs up, you guys, if it's clear to most of you. Not many thumbs up. If you don't have if you still have questions, put them in the chat now. Do we have more questions?
I'm just taking them. If we want to decline a POI, do we say POI declined?
Yes.
Can we decline the POI after listening to the question?
No. That shows that you don't know the answer, so you will be down marked.
Yeah. Ma'am, how many times we can give POI?
Just once for each speech, one POI per speech, because more than one POI will only disturb the speaker.
So we are marked after declining a POI. So are we marked if we decline a POI?
See, you are not down marked. You do not suffer if you decline a POI, but you can't say that, okay, tell me what your POI is, then I will decide. That's not allowed. You either decline it or accept it based on your level of confidence.
Okay, this is a question not related to POI, but I guess Krishna, you repeating again the same question. I'm doing this debate for the fourth time, so will I get the opponent of the same experience? Look, in a same category, you can be paired against, say, experience or not experience, because we consider the all student in the same category, which is 4 to 6, 7 to 9, and 10 to 12, will have similar caliber, and that's why they can be paired against each other, irrespective of who they are in terms of their prior experience. So if you are in 7 to 9th, you can be paired against any team which is in 7 to 9th grade. Can speaker 1 ask a POI to speaker 2? Yes, if you are, meant a speaker, one of the team proposition can ask a speaker to opposition. Yes. Can we the day of tournament? Will we send to the? We will send you to the breakout rooms on the day of tournament. Yes. I think we have taken most of the questions, Pratiksha. Now the nature of questions are also related to the, motions. So if you want to move ahead to the different topic, you can go ahead.
Okay, I think what I will wrap today's discussion with is how the adjudicators are going to mark you. Guys, now you're repeating your questions on POIs. We can't keep responding to these repeat questions. Please go back, watch the recording. You will have all your answers. All right. Moving on to criteria for adjudicators. You have 10 points for matter. Matter refers to the arguments, how well read you are in what you're debating on. What are your examples like? Are your examples valid? Are your examples well analyzed? Is your matter good? Is it relevant to the motion? That counts as part of like it's under the umbrella of matter, and you're marked on those in these parameters within the category of matter. The second category is manner. Manner mandates. If you want to like score well in manner, one, you shouldn't be constantly reading things off a page. Secondly, you can definitely refer to notes. Secondly, you have to be on camera at all times. Also, please ensure you have a good internet connection, because if you're breaking quite a lot, then adjudicators find it hard to difficult to understand you. And yeah, just voice modulation and body language, and also how respectfully you conduct yourself in the debate room. And how you don't like try to intimidate the other, etc., are important metrics based on which you are judged within manner. And then method is just basically what is the structure of your argument. For example, I might give you 1,000 arguments, but I don't give analysis for any of these arguments, which means you don't have a method. You are just jumping from one argument to the other argument without explaining any of the arguments. So that is what method is about. Method means that the first speaker is doing what they're supposed to. For example, setting up context. The second speaker is rebuilding and rebutting. The third speaker is weighing. It's not all muddled up. It has a method. It has a structure. It's flowing well. That's your method. That's a process. So argument one is this. Analysis to argument one is this. Example for argument one is this. 1, 2, 3, log. Argument to this. Analysis to argument to this. Example for argument to this, log. And then panel, now these are the points I have made. My deputy will carry them forward. Here's where I end my speech. So that's like a method, right? Unlike you delivering a speech saying that, okay, panel, this is my framing, but before my framing, let me also bring in my first argument. But before I analyze it, please let me also bring in my second argument. That's just all over the place. So method is about having a strategy, having a clear flow of thought, which is not interrupted by a lot of ideas coming in and going out at like just no note, like just like that, very randomly. So that's pretty much it. Matter, manner, and method. 3 things that you need to keep in mind when you're debating. That's that. I think we can call it a day now and meet tomorrow for some practice, but also some clarification on other things. So if you have more questions, you can definitely